what you use. They both work. Their Perkins come in there and just boom.
Are you gonna turn around?
Reviewing and approving the budget for next year. We do not have a date for that yet. Usually it's around the third or so week in June. So I imagine somewhere within the next 2 weeks, we'll have a special call meeting. So as soon as that date is set, we'll advise everybody of that next meeting. I'd like to extend sympathy to our Weakley County School family. PK Kelly has lost her father. Mark Maddox has lost his stepmother. Ava Esri lost her father-in-law. Leanne Crow has lost her grandmother. And Kim Simmons has lost her father. We want to extend our sympathy to these members of our family and know that you're all in our thoughts and prayers for peace and comfort at this time. Sorry for your losses. We do have an item to be added to the agenda this evening. Is there a motion to approve the addition to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's a second. Moved and seconded. Any questions about the addition to the agenda? I believe it's a coach position. If there's no questions, all in favor of the addition, say aye.
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 Is there a second? I guess there's a second also by that. Does two ayes make a second? Any questions about the agenda as amended? All in favor of approving the agenda as amended, say aye.
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 Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor of the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, it is approved. It is approved. Next item of business will be the approval of the minutes. The minutes of the May 7th school board meeting were distributed earlier. Is there a motion to put this on the floor for consideration?
So moved.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Tricia, we get one? I just can't hear. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, deletions, changes, adjustments to the minutes as presented, as previously presented from the May 7th meeting? Question, comments, changes? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All opposed? The minutes are approved. Next item of business will be the consideration and approval of Director of Fraser's contract. Each year, the school board, we as mail bringers are charged with evaluating the Director of Schools position. Of course, that's Mr. Fraser. The evaluation is done to be completed before April the 30th. And if the contract is to be amended for any reason, it needs to be done prior to June 30th. The evaluation instrument we use for Mr. Fraser is a 51-item tool. It has 5 categories of which he is evaluated: relationship with the board, staff and personnel relationships, business and finance, community relationships, and personal qualities. I'm not surprised, but pleased to report that Mr. Fraser graded out an overall average of 4.84 out of 5. This is an exemplary rating. And I said, it's no surprise to me. The evaluation process allows comments for board members to make comments. We had 5 members make positive comments relative to Mr. Fraser's performance. In view of this outstanding performance evaluation, and in consideration of the stable and steady leadership Mr. Fraser exhibits every day, normal days and abnormal days, in crisis and good times, I want to make a motion that we extend his contract 1 year, which would make it to the maximum permissible term allowed by state law of 4 years. So I'm put that in the form of a motion. relative to Mr. Fraser's performance. Is there a second to that?
Second.
There's a second. Moved and seconded. Any questions about this motion that I'm making to accept Mr. Fraser's evaluation and to move his contract ahead 1 year? Any questions, comments?
I just want to know which second was recorded. Was it Bo's voice or John's victory signal? Just kidding.
You're not allowed to make jokes, Josh.
I wish I could see you all. I only see 9 of you, the Hollywood squares here, but it was interesting. All right, there's no questions and comments. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion is approved. Mr. Fraser, thank you for your leadership of our school system. It's a pleasure to have you on board and now have you under contract for 4 years.
Well, thank you. I just want to thank the board for their support and look forward to continuing to move our district forward.
Well, you do a good job every day, but this year has proved that a lot of people in our system can really step up and do a great job when required. And it's just been amazing what you and you all have been able to do. It's really remarkable, and it's noteworthy as well.
You're only as good
Next
as
item of business is I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Say that again. It deserves repeating.
The one at the top's only as good as his team members, and we've got a great staff, so I appreciate all their work.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Next item of business is to discuss and approve the federal project application and budget for the school year. I believe we have a description of that was sent to us. Wake County Schools Federal Programs Overview. Ms. Foster, is this what refers to that document?
Yes, that
Or
is.
is there another? Okay, is there another? Is there a? I know there's a resolution, but that has nothing to do with this item, agenda item.
Correct.
Okay, you want to walk us through this, or tell us what we need to know particularly about this?
Yes, each year I like to present to you all just what we're doing with our federal funds. We receive funds through 4 titles. The largest chunk of those funds comes through Title I. Our Title I allocation is figured on the percent of students living in poverty in our district. And this year's total allocation, you can see at the end of that section, is estimated to be a little over $1 million. That is a very, very rough estimate because it's based on the federal budget, which is not yet passed. So that allocation is really based on what we got last year. We're hoping that's close, and I budgeted as such, but a lot of times we don't often have exact figures until January. Since this is such a volatile year for budgets, I've done a little bit of some different things with our budget. We know that our best resources are educators, the ones we put in front of our students. So our plan is to ensure we fund those positions first, and we will hold off on any major purchasing of supplies or equipment until January, when we know what our budget actually will be. So we want to make sure we have those people in front of our students each day, and we have that funded first. And that way, if we're cut in January, we don't have to cut positions. We'll just be cutting some extra supplies or materials that we don't necessarily have to have. So Title I Part A funds 10 intervention teachers in our schools and 74.5 hours per day for educational assistance. And like I said, that's the bulk of what we do with our federal funds. We also receive funds through Title II, which is teacher improvement. And we use Title II funds to pay for instructional coaches at our elementary schools. In Title IV, we address 2 main areas of need, which is well-rounded educational opportunities and safe and healthy students. We use Title IV funds to fund our middle school music teacher. We use Title IV to fund our AP class programs and train those teachers. And then we use it for training staff on things like mental health and crisis prevention strategies. And then there's a little bit in there for training teachers on technology. And then Title V is a fund we get because we have rural schools, and we use that to supplement another instructional coach and reading math specialist at Sharon School. So that you can see the estimated funds for all of those titles at the end of each section. But this is very consistent with how we've spent the money in the past. We're just being judicious with how we spend it early in the year, just to make sure we don't get ourselves in a bind later in the year.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Foster. Is there a motion to put this item on the agenda, on the floor for consideration and discussion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right, in light of Ms. Foster's explanation, any questions or comments about any of these title funds, their uses, sources? Well, they're all federal, but uses is where they're intended. Any questions or comments? If there are none, is there all in favor of approving this report and the application and budget for the school year, next school year, say aye.
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 Okay, is there a second? Okay. All opposed? The grant, the federal funding proposal is approved. Thank you all for your support. Ms. Foster, thank you for this thorough explanation. Next item of business is consideration to approve school board policy number 6.310 relative to dress code. This is the first reading. At last month's meeting, this item was tabled. So if my Robert's Rules of Order is right, we need a motion to remove this item from the table. Is there a motion to remove the item from the table? There's a second.
Motion.
Okay, is there a second? I think I heard a second.
John gave the sign.
All in favor of removing from the table, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, it is removed from the table. Now, it does not need to be removed then, so now we have the dress code first reading on the table for discussion. Any questions or comments relative to this policy change? I believe it was tabled because of a change that want to be made. Does the person, do we see the changes in there that we were looking for last month? Has that been made?
It has, Steve. We met and had a Zoom with our administrators and talked about the request from the board to make an addition to our changes in the dress code policy. And we agreed at all of our school levels that we would include spirit wear as part of our daily accepted dress. The principal will decide what is school wear, where we won't have folks coming in wearing things that may not be affiliated with the school. But any school spirit wear will be allowed at the school setting each day.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions about this policy changes?
Real quick, just on the spirit wear, we are now allowed, or administrators would be allowed to get spirit wear that's, got different pipings and stuff like that. So we're not tied to monochromatic.
Long as it's connected to their school.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor of this first reading, say aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Your motion.
All opposed?
Steve,
Yes.
we need a motion.
I thought bringing it off the table accounted for the motion.
Is that the motion?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking that if my Robert's Rules of Order is incorrect, I think moving it off the table since it was already moved, that meant it was already in the motion. So
I think you're right there, Steve.
do I need a motion?
No, I think we're good. But we probably want to vote on it again.
All right. Yes, let's do that. All in favor of approving the first reading of dress code revision policy 6.310, say aye.
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 All opposed? The first reading of this policy revision is passed. This is only the first reading. It has to be presented twice and approved twice before it makes policy decision. So it'll show up at our next or the following school board meeting for second reading for consideration. Thank you all. Next item of business for my agenda is first reading of school board policy 6.414. And this is student suicide prevention, intervention, and post-vention. Their motion to put this on the floor for consideration.
Move.
Is there a motion to consider? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions about this policy? Anybody want to go through this very quickly and let us know the details?
I will, Steve.
Highlights.
This is
Just a
basically
fire about.
our
Is this,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I'm here.
Basically, we are required, the board is required to adopt a policy that meets the new state requirements for suicide prevention, also the intervention and the postvention procedures we have to follow. And this is really a blanket policy that we've used from the state recommendation. So once we pass this, we'll follow this procedure and we'll be in compliance.
So this is a new policy as required by the law of the state, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All in favor of approving policy number 6.414 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, this policy is approved on first reading, 6.414, and it will be presented at a later board meeting for its second reading and subsequent adoption or deletion. Okay, on our next item is approval of budget amendments and resolutions. We have, I think we have 3 of those. We have a board resolution number SB 2020-02. This is a board resolution. Is there a motion to put this on the floor for consideration?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. This is any questions or comments, Ms. Fraser? You want to let us know a little bit about? I think it's self-explanatory, but you want to let us know?
Yes, we're required, the comptroller said that the board has to make a resolution to waive some of the normal procedures due to closing of schools and emergencies, which will cover things that we did this year, altering our office hours, our school hours, our work and payment procedures. And this will cover us for this year moving forward if we have any further interruptions. So this is basically to keep us in good standing with our auditors.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. Any questions about the school board resolution 2020-02? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution 2020-02 is approved. Next item we have is a budget resolution 2020-47, 2020-47. Is there a motion to put this on the floor for consideration? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions about this resolution? Mr. Fraser, run through it
Yes.
quickly.
What we're doing is we're moving money out of our food nutrition fund balance to pay our employees for work that's been performed during our school closures. You all know, we started feeding meals the immediate day after we closed our schools, breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. And so this is extra pay supporting those teachers, not teachers, but cafeteria workers. We also had some other school staff that worked inside the cafeteria every day. And also for our supervisor, normally Ms. Trista is on 11-month contract, but she's going to be 12 months this time because we'll continue to feed throughout the summer. This covers approximately 60 employees, and this is from the middle of March through May 15th, all their time that they worked. And so we'll have another pay period in the next budget cycle, probably sometime late July after we completed our program to compensate those folks. But it's just been really great to see our team come together, our food nutrition staff. We've reached that milestone of 250,000 meals we've provided. On our largest day, we had over 1,800 students that we served. And those numbers have dropped a little bit in the last week or two. And I think maybe because of some of our students and families have qualified for the USDA meals that are being delivered a box to their house from the federal government Baylor program. And so that's probably one of the reasons those numbers have dropped off. But we're still somewhere around 1,400 children a day out of our 3,900 plus students are getting breakfast and lunch 7 days a week for us or from us.
Yes, Ms. Fraser, a great job. Our folks have been doing an absolutely marvelous community service, and especially in light of the problems we're having. This gets us through the month of June. Is that correct?
No, May 15th. That's March through May 15th. It's 2 months, the first 2 months. And when we originally started, we really didn't know what we were looking at. And we were distributing meals 5 days a week, which caused our people to come in and work every day. And so our hours won't be as much per week moving forward. We changed somewhere around middle of April and started distributing 2 days a week. And so we'll have another pay period, but it probably won't be hardly as many hours.
I guess I'm asking, do we have to do another amendment before the end of the year?
We will not do one before the end of the year. It'll be in the next fiscal year if we make the final payment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All in favor of approving the resolution 2020-47, say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing no opposition, consider it resolution 2020-47 is approved. Next is Federal Resolution 142-2006. Is there a motion to put this on the floor for consideration? Is there a motion to put it on the floor?
Motion.
Second.
There's a second. Moved and seconded. Any questions about this resolution? I don't know if Ms. Fraser, Ms. Foster, or somebody walk us through this quickly to let us know Cliff Notes version.
I'll speak to this. This is a special ed resolution, and it's two parts of that. The first thing you can see at the very top, we did receive a grant, a $10,000 grant to help purchase some technology, and so we have budgeted that money down at the very bottom. You can see for the items that we're purchasing in special ed. And then the middle part of that resolution is just end of year cleanup. We're moving money around, money that we did not expend in certain object codes, and we're moving somewhere else because we have to spend that money out in order to meet our maintenance of effort.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. Any questions about, any other questions or comments about the resolution? All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 All opposed? The resolution 142-2006 is approved. Thank you. We have a couple of coaching positions to approve. One Martin Middle and one added at Dresden Middle. Is there a motion to put this on the floor for consideration?
So moved.
What is there a second? Moved and seconded. We have Mr. Urban and Mr. Hewitt for consideration. Any questions or comments about these appointments? All in favor of these appointments, say aye.
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 All opposed? Opposed? They are approved. I don't think we have any committee reports per se. Mr. Fraser, you want
Yeah,
to talk to us?
I've got several things that we can talk through, give you some updates, and then kind of tell you what we're looking at in the near future. First of all, you mentioned the special call board meeting that we need to look at. I'm proposing that we have that meeting either on Monday, June 15th or Tuesday, June 16th. I'll have the budget prepared and ready by that time. So, Steve, if you want to poll folks, or if we want to decide tonight, Monday the 15th or Tuesday the 16th, I will have it ready to be approved by the board. You're muted, Steve.
I'm sorry. Does you want to do it mornings or afternoons, or does it about
It's
about this
whatever
time?
accommodates you all. It doesn't make any difference to me. Got a lot of folks working, so
I have a conflict on I have a conflict on Tuesday morning, but Monday morning, Monday afternoon, or Tuesday afternoon is fine with me. Tricia, you want to poll the board and see who's here, if they've got a preference? Bo, if you are, I just don't see who all's on.
Call it now.
This will be,
we can send if you want to, Steve, we can send an email out tomorrow and get response, and then we'll try to pick the best date and time.
this will be a virtual meeting, right?
Can be. Yeah, we'll see the documentation prior to this meeting, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, we'll send an email tomorrow and get everybody's preference with meeting times. So that might be easier to handle than we'll be here now. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Fraser. Sorry.
Well, I just said we'll include a packet of the budget at the end of the week prior to our meeting, where you all can look through it, and then we can meet the next week at your all's convenience. Doesn't make any difference to me. We'll let Patricia poll everyone and pick either or, whichever one we have the most preference to.
Okay. What else we have, Ms.
Okay.
Fraser?
We are still waiting to hear from the state. As you all know, the General Assembly reconvened last week, and we're still hearing a lot of rumbling about funding being cut. The most recent was potentially some reductions in pre-K funding this year. I still think that teacher increases from the state mandated could be on the table. We just really are waiting. We're at the will of the General Assembly as far as moving forward. Now, we are, in my budget, I've been working on planning on moving forward with our mandated teachers raises. You all know that we've had a lot of conversation about those raises, and later in the year, when things return to normalcy, I'll have a presentation for the county commission and our board that shows you where we stand. Particularly local funding, is we're way behind in local funding, which has impacted our teacher salaries, which has impacted the number of teachers that we've lost. I think we're up to 64 now in the last 3 years that we've lost that we wanted to retain in our county that left for for more money or greener pasture. So that's something we need to address, but we will work on that this year with the funding we have. Even if we have to get a little bit into our fund balance, I think we can do that to move those salaries forward. We also have received the information to apply for the CARES funding. That's also federal funding. Ms. Foster is taking care of that for us. She's very good with that process of requesting federal funding, but there are some requirements we have to follow, and we have to have a plan submitted by June 15th. That's $939,000 that we're eligible for. The two private schools in our area also have an option to receive some of that money. We've heard from one of our schools who's declined, and we're waiting to hear from the other one. And so we hope to have those monies approved, and we'll share the plan with the board at a future meeting. We're focusing on instruction, technology instruction, teaching our students and staff how to virtually provide instruction if we happen to have to close again in the future. So as soon as we get some confirmation we receive that funding, I'll share that information with you all. We also are waiting. We've been told that the state is going to provide us with a reopening toolkit in the next week or so, recommendation from the state of how we re-enter into the school year with accommodations that we need to make according to the coronavirus situation that we have. And so once we get the toolkit from the state, our plans are then is to develop some task groups, probably 3 or 4 different groups, to have conversations about what that plan needs to look like, and have those plans developed and provide those to our parents and communities as soon as possible. I would like to request that as we assemble these committees, for example, we may have a transportation committee. We'd like to have a board member involved with the committee. We'll also have a community person and probably also a parent in all of our committees. But we feel like it's important we look at transportation. Our feeding situation could be different if we're not allowed to use our cafeterias to full service that time. Entering and exiting school during the day, if we have to screen students, will be an issue that we'll have to address. And then instruction, we'll have to come up with a plan. The state is going to require us to submit what's called a continuous learning plan. In case we're closed again this year, we have to have a plan approved by the State Department prior to us closing. And so we'll be working on that, how we would provide virtual instruction after we train our teachers, and then another method to reach our students who may not have access. So as soon as we get the toolkit, I'll be working on those groups, and I will let you all know. We'd love to have you all participate in that. We have begun to reopen our facilities. We Zoomed with our principals last week that have middle school and high school athletics. We're following National Federation's guidelines for reopening. We've reopened in phase 1. As I visited a couple of our schools this week, our kids are back getting active again in small groups, and we're beginning to move forward with preparing to not only engage them, but prepare for our seasons next year. I will say that we've been very thoughtful in how we group our athletes and our coaches, where we're not intermingling those groups, particularly in the first phase. And we're trying to keep separated where if we do have an issue, a health issue, that we won't be shutting down the entire team, but only a couple small groups. And have heard today in at least 2 high schools in our state have had high school football players in the last day or two that have tested positive, which if you have that, you have to quarantine your players and staff that have been around those students that they were to test positive. So we're keeping ours in small groups moving forward, where we can continue to keep our students engaged, even if we have an issue that we have to address. So we look forward in a couple of weeks to reconvening with our principals, and hopefully we'll move into phase 2, which is a little less restrictive. And then hopefully in July, we'll be back even more advanced into a normal setting. But I know our kids were excited to get back. We were glad to have them back participating. Graduation dates are set. Our principals have worked hard at looking at all alternative ways to provide this ceremony that our seniors deserve during this time that we have to be aware of the health issues. We're all graduating on Friday, June the 12th. UT Martin has allowed our school, Westview School, to have graduation at the stadium. So that's great. We just need to pray that we don't have rain. We are planning on graduating all of our seniors at that one site. If it rains, we have an alternate plan where we'll move into the gym, and we'll have two ceremonies, one Friday and one Saturday. And looking at the forecast, I think at this point we're good on Friday night. Greenfield, Dresden, and Gleason will be hosting theirs in their gymnasium. We do have limited tickets we're given to each graduate, and we'll be marking seats and marking locations that we enter into those facilities. And we're just trying to adhere to all the guidelines that we can. It's going to look a little different. We're not going to be passing out diplomas, not going to be shaking hands and having the normal group pictures with our staff and students. And but we do feel like it's important to let them gather one more time. And I have shared with principals to make sure they contact our board members about you all receiving tickets if you want to attend the ceremony. And so if you've not heard from that principal or your principal and you're interested, just shoot me a text or call and I'll make sure they follow up with you about that. Other than that, we've got, I think to this point, we've not had a lot of turnover with our teaching staff this year. We've hired probably 6 or 8 teachers, and we have 4 positions still available at this point. So hopefully this will be a quiet summer with having to replace teachers, but we still have a lot of time left, so things could change. But other than that, that's the update I have at this point. If you all have any questions, feel free to ask them. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Fraser, the meeting with the TSSAA a couple of weeks ago that you sat in on, could you provide an update with that for us?
I will. We had 2 meetings that I was part of the task force with TSSAA. That those committees were comprised of superintendents, building leaders, both public and private school, also TSSAA staff, and then Dr. Alex Diamond, who is the medical advisor for the state of Tennessee, and he's also one of the 2 medical advisors for the National Federation of High School Athletics. Dr. Diamond also is the team physician for Vanderbilt Athletics, the Predators, and also their new soccer team in Nashville. So he is a medical, sports-driven physician, and so has a mindset of what needs to take place. There are a lot of concerns about what we requested really from TSSAA was a little more structure of what was happening statewide. To be honest with you, we didn't get that really as much as everyone pushed for that, because there is a lot of variance across the state as far as the exposure. We still have places like Nashville where they can't get into school, and we still have one county in the state's not even had a case this year. So restricting what everyone could do and putting everyone in a bucket, that the TSSAA didn't feel like that they could or wanted to do that. And so what they recommended was that we look at the National Federation guidelines on reopening. We were able to ask Dr. Diamond a lot of questions, and our goal now is to safely re-enter practices with our mindset being on being able to play athletics in the fall. That's our goal and hopes, but a lot is still going to have to change for us to be able to compete with some of our team sports, to be honest with you. Football is still going to be in question, and also basketball because of the contact and those situations that you have player-to-player contact. Now, one of the things that we did question Dr. Diamond, as you see now, the NBA has got plans to reopen. NFL and colleges are planning on reopening, and hopefully some of the other professional sports will. Then what makes those groups different than our high school athletes? And he said 2 things in particular. One, every one of those professional and major college programs will be able to access testing daily if needed for their players. And he said, we're not going to be able to test our high school athletes now. We can say whatever we want to, that free testing is available, but testing of high school athletics the way it should be done in some of those sports is probably not going to happen. The second thing he said, that all of those particular teams have multiple full-time physicians on hand and on staff every day monitoring those players. And we do have nurses in our schools. We have some trainers that help on Friday night, but we don't none of our schools in the state have access to that medical attention daily for our athletes. So we just hope that as we see our numbers have been pretty stable here and maybe across state, that will be the case, and we'll be able to move back into some of our competitive sports in the fall. But pretty interesting. There was a special call meeting today where there was a request to, for 1 year, waive the 2-week dead period and allow teams to practice, because so many places are still not able to practice and might be able to at the end of June and July. But the vote today was to not alter the dead period. So there'll still be a 2-week dead period across the state in all athletics. So to be honest with you, I wish the state would have given more guidance and not rely so much on the national federation, and really local decisions have to be made, because in reality, I heard on the call today, we've got teams across the state that are doing much more than the medical folks would want them to do athletically. And to me, that's one, not what we should be doing if we're modeling and trying to be safe in hopes that we will be able to play in the fall. But secondly, it's really not fair for competitively when you got folks doing all kinds of things. But my comment is that even without COVID-19, your schools and coaches that break the rules are going to break them anyway. And so this just has really not changed anything, just maybe made it more apparent that folks pretty much do what they want to do when it comes to athletics.
Well, I would just say this, that TSSAA likes to talk about the protection of our student athletes. And we're seeing across the state that there's going to be a major competitive disadvantage with the amount of training that's been going in at some schools as opposed to others. My question is this, Mr. Fraser. I looked at all the counties that all of our schools in Weakley County will be traveling to play region and district games. And most all of them are testing at about a 6%, anywhere from 4.5% to 5.5% of their population inside their counties. In Weakley County, I'm glad to say we're sitting right there with it too. Currently, superintendents don't have a seat at the table at the TSSAA and the Board of Control. What can we as a school board or the Tennessee School Board Association do to get you guys a seat at the table to provide information that's lacking, so a better decision can be made going forward? Because although this isn't just about athletics, it's about our band, it's about our arts, it's about everything that has to do with school. Athletics leads the way. So what can we do to get superintendents a seat at that table with the Board of Control?
The TOS organization for the last 4 or 5 years have been pretty proactive in trying to have voting membership on both the Legislative Council and the Board of Control. We currently have on the Legislative Council, there are 3 superintendents that are on that council. Dan Black is the chair. Bo Griffin from Millington is on that council, and Dexter Williams from West Carroll. They were voted on, having been in previous roles at the school level, and have maintained their spots on the Legislative Council. Now, there are not any superintendents on the Board of Control. And what's happened, we had a proposal about 3 years ago that was voted on by the schools, and the schools voted not to allow superintendents to be on the board. And basically, TSSAA is letting the school level people have a louder voice than the district level. And I'm an ex officio on the Legislative Council, and I said, we by no means as superintendents want to run athletics, but we all know when things happen and it really gets serious, and as we say, things hit the fan, they don't look at the coaches and the principal. They start looking at the superintendent of schools and the school board to make those decisions. And so the answer is we would have to reapply, and it would be a voting situation. And we just have some places where your coaches are more powerful than the school board and more powerful than superintendent, and they pretty much have the say so, and that's where we're at. And it's been a battle. The state legislators would love to take over TSSAA, to be honest with you, and we really don't want that to happen either. But I just think that as much as the TSBA can get involved with that and have a conversation, my thought process was that we had no problem putting 3 private school voting members on that board, but we couldn't have enough superintendents, and we don't want the majority, but we do need to have a voice at that table. So it's just uncertain moving forward. The question is, you asked about scheduling and playing competition around our area. Right now, our area and our regional games, those areas look good to me. We have one of our schools that's got a Memphis school scheduled to play football with. That could be an issue in the fall. Moving forward, my biggest concern, and things Tissot are going to have to make decisions about, is if we start our seasons and you have a team that has a health issue and they have to quarantine for 2 weeks, what happens to those games? Are they going to have to forfeit? There's just a lot of decisions they're going to have to go ahead and make, hoping for the best, but be at least planning for the worst.
Thank you, Ms. Fraser. Any other questions or comments relative to the reports? Any other business before any of the board members? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, stay on the Zoom then. Thank you all. See you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Mr. Fraser.